Today I'd love to welcome a very special guest, Mrs. Bisi Usidame. Bisi Usidame is an experienced educator, trauma therapist, and professional counselor with a demonstrated history of working in the education management industry. She is skilled in team building, strategic planning, social media research, and community development. She has a professional degree from the University of Nottingham and obtained her undergraduate degree in estate management from the University of Lagos. She is presently studying a master's degree in innovation in education from the University of South Wales. She works with both children and grown-ups who are experiencing unresolved trauma. She offers counseling services as a certified professional counselor and directs and guides her patients using cognitive behavioral therapy. She has bagged several certificates in the area of safeguarding trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, amongst others. She has also had a stint in the banking sector as well as public relations and administration, and is presently on a course with the Association for Psychological Therapists UK. A very big welcome, Mrs. Bisi Usidame. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. So it's a very interesting conversation that I would love us to have today, one that is particularly of interest to me and of course thousands of parents out there, because truth be told, we're in a very fast-moving world now, and the kind of trainings we got is quite different from what is happening now.
Absolutely.
Technology has made a lot of things, easier and difficult. So you have to deal with both somehow as a parent or as an educator or as a caregiver. And for me, there's no monopoly of knowledge. If you find someone who is better at something, who is a specialist somewhere, and have these conversations, it will open up your mind and your eyes to see certain things that you probably haven't been paying attention to. And for me, most importantly, parents, we need to keep an open mind and learn, because right now parenting requires a lot of attention, and the more you listen and share in people's experiences, the more you can begin to pinpoint the things that you need to pay personal or more attention to. And so beginning today, I'd like you to first tell us, why did you choose this discipline of all to do? So many young girls, when they ask us then in school, what do you want to do? I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be an accountant. So why did you choose this discipline?
Okay, I think it's more of a reflection, a journey of reflection. Coming from a close-knit family and realizing that I was very much different from my siblings, my older siblings, and I realized they had to do not with our values being different, but it had to do with my experiences being different from their experiences, having to do with the frequency in which I moved, changed schools, and the semi-absence of a parent while growing up. And I realized that it changed my perspective of things, how I handle things, and then and then how certain situations will trigger me. And then I realized that there were some things I had to deal with as a child that they did not deal with, and that was where my journey started from, wanting to test my hypothesis of the impact that a person's childhood can have on their lives as adults.
So these experiences you're talking about, were they unique to you, or it was a shared experience between your siblings and you, and how did it affect you differently from them?
Good. So I did realize that a lot of the experiences that affected me and how I interacted with my environment was unique experiences that I had, they did not have.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Is this because of age, or why were they unique to you?
So one of it was the age difference. another was because of you know, when I was giving birth to, they were a few years older, so they were more or less never there all of the time with me. You know, when I was in the primary, they were in the secondary, university, and as it went. But also at that time, my mom's experiences had changed as well. And it also affected how she raised me and how also my dad raised me. So location differed. My parents' marriage, you know, the state of their marriage differed. Their relationship differed, you know, and obviously that also impacted me, you know, and then I realized that how I interacted with people, my level of commitments to, you know, different, you know, areas, my roles and responsibilities was different. And yeah, my emotional regulation was different. So I was more, I could more or less say erratic. I was more aggressive. I was more expressive, interestingly, you know, than my siblings were. So, you know, all of that, and, you know, it had always been a joke, like, you were adopted. My sister used to jokingly say I was adopted. But of course, we look like twins, so there was no issue of adoption there. But then it got me thinking, because there were times I would take some actions and I would regret it. And I would wish, why did I react like that? Why did I say that?
You were always quick to anger.
Yes, I was quick to anger, you know, and I would get overwhelmed, you know, and I thought, no, this is not right. Because my mom would look at me like, why are you reacting this way? Why are you behaving this way? Why are you so different? And, you know, my sister would say the same thing. So I'd always felt I was always, maybe
odd one out.
Odd one out. And, you know, you could see the difference in personality between, you know, me and my sister. And I just thought, no, you know, why am I different? So in the journey of not wanting to change myself, but why do I behave the way I behave? Then it got me on the journey of, okay, so my specific and unique experiences as a child is what has led to certain responses, my behavior, my thoughts pattern, you know, and how I am able to relate or regulate my emotions.
So you were always on the defensive,
always apprehensive. You know, I had empathy, but also I was expressive. So for me, I would express my emotions before empathy would come into the equation.
You shield yourself first.
Shield myself first, basically.
Okay, interesting, quite interesting, because really we see people act in different ways, you know, handle situations in different ways, react to situations in different ways, and you're wondering. And someone even mentioned that at some point that, you know, even twins who came out from the same womb, whether identical or not, have different personalities.
Absolutely.
And, you know, that sometimes is a bit worrisome when they are on two opposite ends. You're like, okay, they are even twins. Why is this one so different from the other? Right?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how twins own work, because at that age you're growing up together.
Yeah.
You know, you're probably experiencing the same level of care and love.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how it happens in twins, and maybe that will be a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead, really.
Okay.
In an ever-changing world like ours, where depression is on the increase and people's need for love and affection requires revalidation, constant revalidation, how can we as parents and even the society at large identify such need early in a child, and how do we take preventive and remedial actions to save the child early? Okay. So relating it back to your experience now. Yeah.
Okay, so the truth is, up until a few years ago, self-awareness was never really a topic, you know, and but then on the rise is what we've realized on the issues of anxiety and depression.
Yes.
And it's also coming with technology, because now we are exposed all day long to people, our perspective of people and people's perspective of us. So there's like a constant interaction going on. And so the way, the older generation would have grown up where you have a school environment, the moment you leave school, you're back home in the safety of home, care, love. It almost doesn't exist anymore. The virtual presence has changed things. And anxiety, depression usually would come from different aspects of how a person views themselves, how others view them, and how they interact with their environment. And when we understand that all of these perspectives of ourselves are related, and we can help ourselves be better just by knowing ourselves, it makes a lot of difference. So a child growing up understanding their strengths, understanding their challenges, understanding who they are, will be able to be in a better position to manage certain pressures that come their way. The truth is, children that have a healthy family bond, strong family bond, grow up in a healthy environment where there is mutual love and respect. Even when they face situations that are traumatic, they are actually able to manage it without, therapeutic treatments, because those things are there. They understand the values. They've understood how to regulate their emotions, how to respond to situations before certain events in their lives. And so the society, what role the society can play in that area is to, encourage family relationships, is to, strengthen the resolve of schools to help children understand themselves better. Because school is not just about impacting knowledge, but it's also a place where children can understand themselves, where they can interact with people, and they're able to realize what the real world is about. So factors will always come in now with the virtual presence and virtual interventions, but how people see themselves, how they see other people, is very important. It helps them to be able to handle anxiety or anxious thoughts or depressive, lifestyle that they may be exposed to,
And then people basically not being too quick to judge, I guess.
Honestly, cyberbullying is real. I mean, adults face it, children face it. Now, little children even know to create a pseudo accounts that they can use to troll their friends. Yes, they do that now. And so you're realizing that you're having to teach your child to be confident in who they are and what they carry, so that when certain things happen, yes, it's going to affect them and how they view themselves. But when there is intervention as to, remember, this is not who you are. This is not what you are.
Voice of reasoning comes back.
Yes, you need to just redirect them and say, look, I have to be honest with you. You may face this as you grow older, but you must always remember to come back to yourself and ask yourself, who am I? What am I? What are the things I'm good at? I'm not perfect, but I am enough for myself. I'm enough for my journey. And as I go on, just teaching them not to invade people's spaces, teaching them to express boundaries and tell them, look, I'm afraid, the words you just spoke to me were not necessary. You did not need to disrespect me. Helping them understand that people who bully have some underlying issues. And so when they have that understanding, they are not to accept bullying as a behavior that needs to they need to settle
or give
for
an excuse.
No, but it's for them to understand that this person is coming from. So that would help them understand that the words that the bullies speak is not really because they have the problems or they have issues, but the person is just finding a place to project their anger and a lot of their insecurity. So that way, you learn to go through the right procedure for reporting bullying and all of that, but you also remember that, this is not who I am. This person is just looking for who to attack, and I'm sorry, this is yes, I'm in no-go zone. I'm in no-go zone.
Amazing. Okay. I have seen a few scenarios where educational intelligence through smartness of other children was consistently used in comparison, to one child, and that child begins to feel unloved, abandoned, and inferior, leading to loss of self-love, validation, and emotional instability. Taking it back to what we're talking about. As an educator, how do you identify these learning gaps and disabilities in a child, and how do you handle these cases?
Good. So this happens every year. This happens to children. You will always come across children who cannot celebrate others because they wonder, why are they better than me? What makes them different? Why am I not that smart? And what you need to do at that point is to help the child unlearn some of those healthy views that they've been able to take on. Very unhealthy. Because you see, children need to understand that, and adults as well, that there are multiple intelligences. The fact that I am not intelligent in regards to books or academics doesn't mean that there are certain areas that I do not excel at. And so because children don't understand that, they just feel, mommy keeps comparing me, my teacher keeps comparing me, perhaps I'm not good enough, perhaps I'm dumb. But when you begin to,
and they act, not just, they actually say it.
Oh yeah, they do.
And compare them to their older siblings or even friends and relatives.
It gets sometimes. So what the children do is they just create a mental block because they're like, you know what, I can't deal with this anymore. Okay, fine, I'm done. Fine, I can't amount to anything good. I'm not smart, and that shuts down the areas where they're actually intelligent in, that they could have excelled in. And so what we need to do to help these children unlearn some of this fake truth is that you let them know that you are smart in your own way, you are intelligent in your own way. You are not that person. There are certain areas you've not discovered about yourself that you are so good at, and in the place of affirming them, you're taking them on the right path. That's one. Two, the fact that there is a concept that a particular child finds easier to understand and you don't find it easier could mean different things. It could mean your interest is not there based on how that lesson was taught. Because if lessons are taught in a particular way, just in a particular way, certain children will always be deemed smarter than others because perhaps that's the child's learning style. But when a teacher understands that and differentiates contents that they teach these children, and also use different learning styles to pass the message across, then it becomes more interesting. A child begins to be able to ask questions and say, oh, I understand this. The learning becomes attractive for the person. So before we shut down a child, before we deem a child or label a child as not being smart, we should have tried different strategies to help the child be at par with their mates.
But then how do you as an educator even discover that there's a disparity, there's a gap, there's a learning disability or gap?
Good. So that's where assessments come in. You don't wait till the end of a term and then do an exam and then say, oh, this child did not understand this. But with every concept, with every unit being taught, you do some sort of formative assessment. Right from the very first lesson, you're teaching a child, and from that area, after spending 10 or 15 minutes teaching the concept, give them 20, 30 minutes to discuss amongst themselves responses to the question. In moving around, you will notice that some are stronger, in that particular concept than others. That's already you identifying that gap. So it's like a formative assessment of some sort, being able to say, okay, this child is struggling with this area. What could be the issue? Then when you have different learning stations in a particular lesson, when you have 30 minutes to teach, for the children to carry out different activities, do 15 minutes in 2 learning stations. Let one have to do with the children talking or discussing scenarios that have to, maybe word problems, if it's math, if it's topic, maybe a location, if it's science, scientific experiments. That's where you realize that when the children are analyzing, you find that some children analyze better because they've been able to apply the knowledge learned, while some are still struggling with remembering the key concepts. Then that goes to show you, this child hasn't understood this. Could it be how I taught? This child needs intervention quickly. So you find out that same day. But it is when you just teach a general way, give a general question. So when you have another learning station that requires maybe writing down certain things that they understand, or remembering certain parts of the concept, when you see, oh, this child doesn't remember identify the key areas we just talked about, then you know this child is still struggling. Perhaps it could be that the child has had a bad day and can't even seem to put themselves in a place where they understand.
Oh, Mrs. Bisi, let's be practical. How many teachers actually take out their time to do this?
So that's what we are doing.
How do we involve the parents here?
So this is where innovation comes in education. Because in some schools are not in communication with parents. They wait till the end of the term and just give the reports. And this is why parents also need to be involved in their children's education. The truth is, you find out that some teachers communicate better with some parents than the others. And the ones they communicate better with are those that are more in touch, that will pop in maybe once or twice a week to pick up their children and say, how is my daughter doing? How is my son doing? How are they doing in this topic? Or dropping a note. That helps the parents to know where the child is and to offer tutorial support, finding someone to be able to support the child if they don't have the time. So that's where it's important that parents are involved in their children's education. Waiting till the end of the term and blaming the teacher for not telling you, or blaming the teacher for not teaching your child properly, is not the ideal way. The child's confidence has been lost. The child's confidence in what they know and how they relate with their friends has been lost, so
you mentioned something really important. Extra tutorial for the children.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So for children who have a bit of this learning gap, how do you now go the extra mile? Like parents need to understand that outside the school learning environment, they probably need one-on-one attention, right?
Correct.
So they need to first, like you said, be involved, get to understand, and then find out what next they need to do to help the child. And I think a lot of it also lies with the teachers, because you are the one who does the knowledge impact in school, so to speak. And so when you notice this, how do you now bring the parents in to say, okay, this child needs extra lessons, these are the things I suggest we need to do, because if the child's parent doesn't pop in school for any reason, what happens to the child?
Precisely. So this is how it works. Educational, like you said, teachers, but the school community as a whole has a role to play in this. A few schools now have the understanding that before the beginning of every term, they need to share like an overview of the knowledge that will be taught that term.
Things that will be taught.
Good. You will find it on some websites, or you'll find it being sent home. What that does is it helps parents know what is being taught per week. And what that does is, it helps you also, if you are a parent who pays attention, to know, okay, this week my child seems to be complaining, they don't understand, they can't solve their homework problems. Then okay, this is an area I need to work with. You now initiating a communication with the teacher and saying, it appears my daughter is struggling with the homework this term or this week, what's going on? And then the teacher says, oh yeah, that's true. I mean, I'm helping her in school. I've tried to give her some intervention during break or at the end of school, but this is the area that I think the child is struggling with. That helps the parents because it provides some clarity and direction as to which area the child needs support in. But instead of, instead of coming down on the child, that what were you doing when your friends were learning? What were you? Because parents are quick to do that. But your teacher said everybody in the class understands. Why don't you understand? And that's where the learning style issue comes in. The child may not understand the way it was taught. It didn't. And
maybe a one-on-one session.
One-on-one session will make a lot of difference. Just simplifying the concept in a way that the child understands. And do you know the funny thing? When such children have that grasp at that stage of remembering, they jump so fast to the point where they can actually practicalize, apply, analyze scenarios based on that question. So a child that was struggling with understanding the formula for solving perhaps, let's say, multiplication of maybe 3 digits by 2 digits, the moment you understand that concept and you've simplified how they can get it, and you've taught them that when you come across word problems, read it, understand, underline the keywords, they are just quick to start solving the problems because now that's what they needed, that one-on-one. You know, so
that extra time to explain the concept.
Extra. So it will be nice for parents when they want to get involved with teachers. Don't just say, why are you not teaching my child? Why are you not paying attention to my child? Are there particular areas my child struggle in? Is there something you've noticed? And that's when they you know, the teacher would say, oh, I think she likes one-on-one. She just likes, once you don't give her that one-on-one, she's not going to listen. She's not going to. So it helps the parent realize that, okay, this child actually needs some tutorial support just to help.
So basically, you don't dump your child in school.
No, you don't.
And take off.
Absolutely not. I wish you know that would solve all the problems, but they don't.
Well, I think we're going to touch on that soon. I believe parents and concerned adults generally do all they can to keep children safe. As a child trauma specialist, can you share what are the things, events, or experiences that cause trauma in a child or in children? How can parents or other caregivers identify, you know, the early signs? I know you shared a little bit about your experience, but I want you to delve deep into what are the things that, you know, the events, the experiences that cause, you know, this. Is there something called child trauma?
Yes.
Because I don't think people know that children also go through trauma. So talk to us more about, you know, children experiencing trauma. How do they get to that point, and how can we identify the early signs?
Okay, thank you for that question. So you know when I said something at some point during our conversation, I talked about the fact that certain children may not actually need trauma therapy because of their healthy environment and how they've been taught. They understand values, they understand principles, they've been taught to express themselves, they have a healthy environment, they have a great support system in family, you know, and then friends. And so they are fine, basically. But there are, unfortunately, we are not all rounded like that. Okay, so there are certain times when, you know, we lack one of these factors that contribute to a very strong or resilient child. Now, children are developing as they go, and just like every area of their life is developing, the emotional aspect is also developing as well. The mental aspect is, you know, the cognitive area is developing as well. And what would usually happen is some children have not learned to identify their emotions. They've not learned to process their emotions. You know how a child is hungry, and some children at certain ages will tell mommy, I'm hungry. I'm a bit confused. I don't understand what to do with this problem, this word problem from school. Another child is hungry and the child starts to cry or throws a tantrum. But the child can't even identify that they're hungry because they've not learned to be expressive and identify their emotions. A child comes across a word problem they can't solve and they just burst into tears, or they throw the book, and that's when mommy comes in to slap you, like, what's that? Or they start playing. They switch off because they just dissociate, like, I can't handle this, I can't do this.
It's too hard.
It's too hard. So those are the times when parents need to prefer support to their children in those areas, so that when they experience trauma, which can be different things. It could be a dog attacking them, or a dog attacking someone close to them. It could be a loss of someone, or a relocation of a friend to another place. It could be they moving school or changing school. It could be experiencing an accident on the road or being involved in an accident. It could be, you know, experiencing or involving. So you can say that sometimes they experience, sometimes they are involved directly with it. It could be domestic violence, all of these things. So it's just very little things that you think mommy and daddy are arguing and they had a fight. Even
abuse on them.
Abuse, yes. Even mommy and daddy, you know, arguing it out, and you're trying to talk to them, mommy and daddy, and then daddy shouts at you, like, my friend, shut up and get out of here. Am I talking to you? That alone, the child blames themselves. Maybe I should not have. Maybe I'm even the one who caused this issue. And so the child, unable to talk to people about it, unable to understand that people are different. Daddy and mommy, it's an issue between the two of them that they need to solve amicably. It has nothing to do with and has nothing to do with me. They take it on. They project it on themselves. And then they start saying, take on the blame. Take on the blame. So children experience blame based on trauma, experience guilt, you know, experience flashbacks, experience nightmares, experience anxiety attack. They don't know what these things are because they don't know how to, they don't have that, they've not learned how to cope, because coping is a skill. And some children did not learn it. Some children even grow up in places where they are not allowed to speak unless they are spoken to. So they don't understand how to identify, how to talk through certain events. And so they just internalize, suppress, or they react in a way because they don't know how to handle it. And then so you see some children in school, their grades are dropping. And you think they are not more listening at home, or they are not reading, they are not doing their homework again. Maybe they are watching too much TV. They may have been watching TV because, just like you said, they play instead of doing their work because they can't deal with what they are facing.
They just want to switch.
They just want to switch. So the issue there is not that the child is watching TV. The issue here is there's something going on. Yes, there's an underlying, problem. There's a source of the problem. There's a core reason for that behavior. So it's having to just delve a bit deeper, trying to figure out what is going on here. Their interactions with their friends may now be laced with anger or bitterness. Some things that you would not, that is out of the norm for those kind of children. Use of certain words, and you're like, why, or the way they talk about themselves, like almost self-hate, and you're like, where did that come from? So instead of saying, why are you talking like that? Like, we don't talk negative in the class, or parents say we don't talk like that in the house. Try to figure out the child's thoughts, because you see it's very related. Emotions, thoughts, and actions, they are very related. And so until you break one side or you try to investigate from one area, you may never know why a child begins to behave the way they behave. So it could be with their thought pattern, or it could just be with their emotions, not being able to process what they are going through. So investigation through all of this is very, very key. So once you see a change in behavior, a change in the words that they speak, a change in their general disposition or countenance, then there's something that needs to be investigated and needs to be addressed before it becomes a long-term behavioral problem, which will now require aggressive intervention, or therapy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It takes more than being present, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
It takes